You are listening to an extended audio preview of Chaos Magician's Workbook, written by Adam Lusum and published by LLH Media. The complete book is available from LLH Media and selected online retailers. Chapter 1: Introduction to Chaos Magick. Chaos Magick is a contemporary spiritual movement and practical philosophy that emerged in the late 20th century, challenging traditional assumptions about magic, belief, and the nature of reality itself. Born from a synthesis of occult traditions and the experimental spirit of the modern age, Chaos Magick invites practitioners to question, adapt, and reinvent the very foundations of magical practice. This chapter offers a comprehensive introduction to Chaos Magick, tracing its origins and development, exploring its central philosophies, and outlining the attitudes and practices that set it apart from other magical systems. To understand Chaos Magick, it is helpful to first consider the cultural and intellectual climate from which it arose. The late 1960s and 1970s were a period of profound social transformation and intellectual upheaval. The Western world was experiencing a crisis of faith in established institutions and grand narratives, including those of religion, science, and politics. The counterculture movement questioned authority and tradition, searching for new forms of meaning and personal liberation. In parallel, the occult revival was in full swing, with renewed interest in ceremonial magic, witchcraft, Eastern mysticism, and alternative spirituality. Against this backdrop, Chaos Magick emerged as a radical response to the perceived limitations of both traditional occultism and mainstream rationalism. The roots of Chaos Magick can be traced to a handful of pioneering figures in England, most notably Peter J. Carroll and Ray Sherwin. In the late 1970s, Carroll and Sherwin began articulating a new approach to magic in their writings, and through the founding of the Illuminates of Thanateros, a loosely organized magical order. Their books, such as Carroll's Liber Null and Psychonaut, and Sherwin's The Book of Results, quickly became foundational texts for the burgeoning Chaos Magick movement. Drawing inspiration from sources as diverse as Austin Osman Spare, Aleister Crowley, existential philosophy, and postmodernism, these early Chaos magicians sought to strip magic of its dogma and ritualistic excess, focusing instead on the mechanisms of belief, will, and psychological transformation. Central to Chaos Magick is the idea that belief is a tool, not an end in itself. Traditional magical systems often require practitioners to accept elaborate cosmologies, pantheons, and ritual structures as literal or at least symbolically true. Chaos magicians, by contrast, regard beliefs as provisional, adaptable, and ultimately arbitrary constructs. Any system of symbols, deities, or rituals can be effective, provided the magician is able to invest belief and emotional energy into it. In this sense, Chaos Magick is deeply pragmatic and experimental. The efficacy of a magical act is judged not by its adherence to tradition, but by its results in the world and its impact on the practitioner's consciousness. This pragmatic attitude is sometimes summarized by the phrase, "Nothing is true, everything is permitted," a maxim attributed to the legendary assassin Hassan Saba and popularized by Chaos magicians. This statement should not be interpreted as a license for nihilism or amorality, but rather as an invitation to creative freedom and personal responsibility. Chaos magicians are encouraged to question all assumptions, including their own, and to explore a wide range of magical techniques, paradigms, and belief systems. The only rule is that there are no rules, except those the magician chooses to adopt for a given purpose. One of the intellectual forebears of Chaos Magick is Austin Osman Spare, an early 20th century British artist and occultist. Spare's work anticipated many of the ideas later developed by Chaos magicians, particularly his emphasis on the subconscious mind, personal symbolism, and the use of sigils. Spare rejected the elaborate ceremonialism of the Golden Dawn and Thelema, advocating instead for a more direct, intuitive approach to magic. He believed that the most effective magical work arises from individual creativity and the deliberate manipulation of belief and desire. Spare's techniques, such as sigilization, the creation of symbolic representations of intent, became central practices within Chaos Magick, demonstrating the movement's preference for simplicity, innovation, and psychological effectiveness. Chaos Magick also draws on the insights of modern psychology, especially the work of Carl Jung and the concept of the unconscious. Many chaos magicians view magical practices as methods for accessing and reprogramming the subconscious, bypassing the critical faculties of the conscious mind. Ritual, symbolism, and altered states of consciousness are seen as tools for communicating with deeper layers of the psyche, enabling the magician to effect change both internally and externally. In this view, magic is less about manipulating supernatural forces and more about transforming the self and one's relationship with reality. The influence of postmodern philosophy is also evident in Chaos Magick's attitude toward truth, meaning, and identity. Postmodernism rejects the notion of absolute truths or fixed meanings, emphasizing instead the fluid and constructed nature of reality. Chaos magicians embrace this perspective, treating magical systems as maps rather than territories, useful models for navigating experience, but not literal descriptions of reality. This flexibility allows practitioners to borrow freely from different traditions, invent new rituals and symbols, and even adopt contradictory beliefs for specific purposes. The Chaos Magician is a bricoleur, assembling a personal toolkit from whatever materials prove effective. Despite its radical openness, Chaos Magick is not without structure or discipline. The practice demands self-awareness, critical thinking, and rigorous experimentation. Chaos magicians are encouraged to keep detailed records of their magical work, noting what techniques produce results and under what conditions. This empirical attitude sets Chaos Magick apart from more dogmatic or faith-based systems, aligning it with the scientific method and the ethos of personal responsibility. The Chaos Magician is both subject and object of experimentation, constantly refining their methods and beliefs in light of experience. A key element of Chaos Magick is the cultivation of altered states of consciousness, often referred to as gnosis. Gnosis is a state of focused awareness, trance, or ecstasy, in which the conscious mind is temporarily bypassed, allowing magical intent to be impressed upon the subconscious. There are many ways to achieve gnosis, including meditation, breath control, drumming, dancing, sensory deprivation, sexual stimulation, and the use of psychoactive substances. The specific technique is less important than the result, a state of absorption in which the mind is cleared of distractions and the will is concentrated on a single point. This principle underlies many Chaos Magick practices, from sigilization to invocation and evocation. Another distinctive feature of Chaos Magick is its attitude towards symbolism and ritual. Rather than adhering to fixed liturgies or inherited iconographies, Chaos magicians are encouraged to invent their own rituals, symbols, and magical languages. This creative approach allows for a high degree of personalization and adaptability. A Chaos magician might invoke ancient gods one day, create a new deity the next, and use science fiction imagery or pop culture references as magical tools. What matters is not the objective existence of these entities or symbols, but their psychological resonance and effectiveness for the practitioner. This playful, irreverent approach can be liberating, but it also demands discernment and self-reflection, as the boundaries between fantasy, belief, and reality become fluid and negotiable. The diversity of practices within Chaos Magick reflects its core philosophy of pluralism and innovation. Some Chaos magicians focus on practical results, using magic to achieve specific goals such as career advancement, artistic inspiration, or personal transformation. Others are drawn to the exploration of altered states, mystical experiences, or the expansion of consciousness. Still others approach Chaos Magick as a form of self-expression, performance art, or even psychological therapy. There is no single right way to practice Chaos Magick. Each practitioner is free to define their own objectives, methods, and criteria for success. Despite this diversity, certain themes recur throughout Chaos Magick literature and practice. The manipulation of belief is perhaps the most important. Chaos magicians recognize that belief shapes perception, experience, and ultimately reality itself. By consciously adopting and discarding beliefs, the magician learns to move between different worldviews, extracting value from each without becoming attached or limited by any one system. This skill, sometimes called paradigm shifting, is central to the Chaos Magician's toolkit. It allows for a fluid, adaptive approach to magic and life, fostering resilience and creativity in the face of uncertainty and change. Another recurring theme is the cultivation of will. In Chaos Magick, will is not simply desire or preference, but the focused, intentional application of energy toward a chosen goal. The development of will requires self-knowledge, discipline, and the ability to direct attention and emotion. Many chaos magic practices are designed to strengthen willpower, clarify intention, and align conscious and unconscious motivations. This emphasis on will reflects the influence of Aleister Crowley, whose dictum, "Do what thou wilt shall be the whole of the law," resonates with Chaos Magic's ethos of personal sovereignty and creative freedom. The relationship between chaos and order is also a central motif. Chaos Magic acknowledges the unpredictability and indeterminacy of existence, embracing the creative potential of chaos, while also recognizing the need for structure and intentionality. The Chaos Magician learns to navigate the interplay between spontaneity and discipline, openness and focus, experimentation and reflection. This dynamic balance is not static or absolute, but a continual process of adjustment and learning. Ethics in Chaos Magic are similarly fluid and individualized. Without a fixed moral code or dogmatic authority, practitioners are responsible for defining their own values and boundaries. Some Chaos Magicians adopt ethical frameworks from other traditions, such as the Wiccan Rede or the concept of karma, while others develop their own codes of conduct based on personal experience and reflection. The absence of external authority can be both liberating and challenging, requiring a high degree of self-awareness and accountability. Chaos Magicians are encouraged to consider the consequences of their actions, both for themselves and others, and to act with integrity and respect for the autonomy of all beings. The question of results is a perennial concern in Chaos Magic. Because the system is pragmatic and results-oriented, practitioners are encouraged to evaluate the effectiveness of their techniques in concrete terms. This does not necessarily mean that every magical act will produce dramatic or immediate outcomes. Often, the effects of magic are subtle, cumulative, or psychological in nature. Nonetheless, the Chaos Magician strives to develop a critical, discerning attitude, avoiding self-deception and magical thinking for its own sake. The keeping of a magical diary or journal is a common practice, allowing the magician to track progress, identify patterns, and refine methods over time. One of the most distinctive contributions of Chaos Magic to the Western esoteric tradition is its open-source, do-it-yourself ethos. Unlike many magical orders or religions, Chaos Magic is not organized around secret teachings, initiatory hierarchies, or exclusive membership. Its literature is widely available, and practitioners are encouraged to share ideas, techniques, and experiences freely. This openness has fostered a vibrant, decentralized community of magicians, artists, writers, and experimenters, connected through books, magazines, online forums, and informal networks. The Chaos Magic community values innovation, diversity, and mutual support, while resisting the temptation to ossify into a new orthodoxy. In recent decades, Chaos Magic has continued to evolve, incorporating influences from cyberculture, transhumanism, neuroscience, and contemporary art. Some practitioners experiment with digital technologies, virtual reality, and social media as tools for magical practice and communication. Others explore the intersections of magic with psychology, philosophy, and political activism. The boundaries between magic, art, and science are increasingly porous, reflecting Chaos Magic's commitment to experimentation and synthesis. This ongoing evolution ensures that Chaos Magic remains relevant and responsive to the challenges and opportunities of the contemporary world. Despite its experimental and iconoclastic spirit, Chaos Magic is not without risks or pitfalls. The deliberate manipulation of belief and identity can lead to confusion, disorientation, or psychological instability if not approached with care and self-awareness. The rejection of external authority and tradition can foster arrogance, solipsism, or ethical blind spots. The open-endedness of Chaos Magic can be both empowering and overwhelming, especially for beginners. For these reasons, it is important for practitioners to cultivate discernment, humility, and a sense of proportion. The Chaos Magician is an explorer, not a conqueror. The goal is not to control or dominate reality, but to participate more fully and creatively in its unfolding. A healthy skepticism is an asset in Chaos Magic, as is a sense of humor. The ability to laugh at oneself, to question one's motives and assumptions, and to embrace uncertainty with curiosity rather than fear are valuable qualities. Magic is as much about play as it is about power or knowledge. The willingness to experiment, to fail, and to learn from experience is more important than the accumulation of esoteric lore or technical skill. As Robert Anton Wilson, a writer and thinker closely associated with Chaos Magick, often remarked, "The universe is not only stranger than we imagine, it is stranger than we can imagine." In summary, Chaos Magick is a contemporary approach to magical practice that emphasizes flexibility, experimentation, and the creative use of belief. It arose in the late 20th century as a response to the limitations of traditional occultism and the uncertainties of the modern world. Drawing on sources as diverse as Austin Osman Spare, Aleister Crowley, Jungian psychology, and postmodern philosophy, Chaos Magick invites practitioners to question all assumptions, to invent their own rituals and symbols, and to judge the efficacy of their practice by results rather than dogma. Its core philosophies include the provisional nature of belief, the cultivation of will, the pursuit of altered states of consciousness, and the embrace of chaos as a creative principle. Chaos Magick is not a religion, a system, or a fixed set of doctrines. It is a toolkit, a playground, and an ongoing experiment. Its practitioners are united not by shared beliefs or rituals, but by a shared attitude of curiosity, skepticism, and creative engagement with the mysteries of existence. Whether one approaches Chaos Magick as a path to personal transformation, a means of achieving practical goals, or simply as a way of exploring the boundaries of mind and reality, the journey is ultimately a personal one. As you embark on the study and practice of Chaos Magick, keep in mind the spirit of openness, adaptability, and play that animates this tradition. There are no secret formulas or guaranteed results. There is only the invitation to experiment, to question, and to discover what works for you. The chapters that follow will explore the core techniques, practices, and philosophical foundations of Chaos Magick in greater detail, offering practical guidance and inspiration for your own magical journey. Remember that this is your work, your path, and your adventure. The only limits are those you choose to accept or to transcend. The history of Chaos Magick is brief but eventful, marked by a restless search for authenticity, efficacy, and creative freedom. Its origins in the countercultural ferment of the 1970s reflect a broader dissatisfaction with received wisdom and a hunger for new forms of spiritual expression. The early Chaos Magicians were iconoclasts and experimenters, eager to test the boundaries of magic, psychology, and reality itself. Their writings, organizations, and rituals were often provisional, playful, and provocative, intended more as starting points than as finished systems. Peter J. Carroll, often regarded as the father of Chaos Magick, articulated many of its guiding principles in his seminal works. Carroll's approach was characterized by a blend of scientific skepticism, mystical aspiration, and anarchic humor. He argued that the mechanisms of magic are psychological and symbolic rather than supernatural, and that the magician's will and belief are the primary engines of magical change. Carroll's emphasis on the experimental method, the use of gnosis, and the manipulation of belief became hallmarks of Chaos Magick practice. His founding of the Illuminates of Thanateros, IoT, provided a loose organizational structure for like-minded practitioners, but the group was always more a network of collaborators than a hierarchical order. Ray Sherwin, another key figure in the early Chaos Magick movement, contributed significantly through his writings and personal example. Sherwin's The Book of Results introduced the technique of sigilization to a wider audience, demonstrating the power of simple, personal symbols to effect change in consciousness and circumstance. Sherwin's emphasis on results, innovation, and individual creativity resonated with a generation of magicians seeking alternatives to the rigid structures of ceremonial magic. The influence of Austin Osman Spare looms large in Chaos Magick, both as a source of practical techniques and as a philosophical inspiration. Spare's rejection of dogma, his celebration of personal symbolism, and his exploration of the unconscious mind anticipated many of the themes later developed by Chaos Magicians. Spare's art and writing are suffused with a sense of mystery, ambiguity, and creative power, offering a model of magical practice that is simultaneously rigorous and playful. Other important influences on Chaos Magick include the writings of Aleister Crowley, whose emphasis on will, experimentation, and self-initiation provided a template for later developments. The work of Robert Anton Wilson, with its blend of skepticism, humor, and philosophical inquiry, also shaped Chaos Magick's intellectual landscape. Wilson's advocacy of model agnosticism, the willingness to entertain multiple models of reality without becoming attached to any one, echoes Chaos Magick's embrace of pluralism and paradigm shifting. The development of chaos magic was also influenced by broader cultural trends, including the rise of systems theory, cybernetics, and the information revolution. Chaos magicians were quick to adopt metaphors from science and technology, viewing the mind as a programmable system and magical rituals as forms of hacking or reprogramming. This technological orientation is evident in the language of chaos magic, with its talk of memes, paradigms, and psychonautics. The influence of cyberpunk literature, digital culture, and the internet has further shaped chaos magic's evolution, fostering new forms of collaboration, experimentation, and dissemination. The spread of chaos magic beyond its British origins was facilitated by the publication of key texts, the formation of informal networks, and the rise of the internet. Magazines such as Chaos International and the New Equinox provided forums for discussion and debate, while online communities allowed practitioners from around the world to share ideas and experiences. The decentralized, open-source nature of chaos magic has enabled it to adapt and thrive in diverse cultural contexts, from the United States and Europe to Australia, Latin America, and beyond. In the decades since its emergence, chaos magic has both influenced and been influenced by a wide range of other spiritual and artistic movements. Its emphasis on personal responsibility, creative experimentation, and the provisional nature of belief resonates with contemporary trends in psychology, art, and philosophy. Chaos magicians have collaborated with artists, musicians, writers, and activists, exploring the intersections of magic, creativity, and social change. The boundaries between chaos magic and other forms of contemporary spirituality are increasingly blurred, reflecting the movement's eclectic and adaptive character. Despite its openness and diversity, chaos magic remains anchored in a few core philosophies. The first is the recognition that belief is a powerful and malleable tool. By learning to manipulate belief, the chaos magician gains access to new forms of experience, creativity, and power. The second is the cultivation of will, understood as the focused application of intention and energy toward a chosen goal. The third is the pursuit of altered states of consciousness, which serve as gateways to the subconscious and the magical imagination. The fourth is the embrace of chaos, not as mere disorder, but as a source of creativity, possibility, and transformation. These philosophies are not abstract doctrines, but practical guides for action and exploration. Chaos magic is ultimately a practice, a set of techniques, attitudes, and experiments designed to produce change in the world and in the self. The chaos magician is an artist of belief, a hacker of consciousness, and a dancer on the edge of the unknown. The tools of chaos magic are simple but powerful: the ability to question, to imagine, to experiment, and to adapt. As you begin your own journey into chaos magic, it is important to cultivate a spirit of curiosity, skepticism, and play. There are no authorities or experts in chaos magic, only fellow travelers and co-conspirators. The path is yours to discover, and the tools are yours to invent. The chapters that follow will introduce you to the core techniques and practices of chaos magic, from sigilization and meditation to invocation, evocation, and paradigm shifting. Each technique is a starting point, not a final destination. You are encouraged to adapt, modify, and reinvent these practices to suit your own needs and aspirations. Above all, remember that chaos magic is an invitation to explore the mysteries of existence with courage, creativity, and an open mind. The only certainty is uncertainty, and the only limits are those you choose to accept. The chaos magician is an adventurer, a trickster, and a creator, weaving new patterns from the fabric of possibility. In the words of Peter J. Carroll, magic is the art and science of causing change in accordance with will. In chaos magic, that art and science are yours to shape, to question, and to reimagine. As you read and reflect on the ideas presented in this chapter, consider your own relationship to belief, will, and the unknown. What stories do you tell yourself about the nature of reality? What assumptions shape your experience, your choices, and your sense of possibility? Chaos magic invites you to become conscious of these stories, to question them, and to experiment with new ways of seeing and being. The journey may be challenging, exhilarating, and at times bewildering, but it is also an opportunity for growth, transformation, and creative discovery. In the end, chaos magic is not about escaping reality, but about engaging with it more fully and creatively. It is a practice of self-liberation, self-invention, and self-transcendence. Whether you seek practical results, mystical insight, or simply a deeper sense of connection to the mysteries of existence, Chaos Magick offers a toolkit and a philosophy for the adventure ahead. The path is open, the possibilities are endless, and the work is yours to begin. Chapter 2: Foundations of Belief. Foundations of Belief. Belief is the invisible architecture upon which the edifice of Chaos Magick is built. Unlike the rigid dogmas of traditional religious or occult systems, Chaos Magick treats belief not as an end in itself, but as a means to an end, an instrument to be wielded, sharpened, and when necessary set aside. To understand Chaos Magick is to understand the dynamic and mutable nature of belief, and how the magician, through deliberate intent, can manipulate belief to shape reality. The nature of belief. It is at once the simplest and most complex aspect of human consciousness. On the surface, it appears to be nothing more than the acceptance that something is true or real, often without absolute proof. Yet beneath this lies an intricate web of psychological, cultural, and emotional factors that determine not only what we believe, but how those beliefs influence our perceptions, actions, and ultimately, our experiences of reality. For most people, beliefs are inherited. They are the cultural hand-me-downs from family, society, and tradition, absorbed unconsciously in childhood and rarely examined in adulthood. These beliefs shape the lens through which we interpret the world, often operating below the level of conscious awareness. They are the silent scripts that govern our reactions, our desires, and our sense of what is possible. Chaos Magick, however, invites you to become conscious of these scripts. It asks you to recognize that belief is not a fixed entity but a fluid one, capable of being molded, discarded, or adopted as the situation demands. In this sense, belief becomes a tool, a technology of the mind, rather than a shackle. The magical utility of belief. In the context of magic, belief functions as the engine that drives results. The traditional view holds that magical rituals, symbols, and incantations are effective because they tap into some external force or hidden law of the universe. Chaos Magick turns this idea on its head. It posits that the power of magic comes not from the objective efficacy of the ritual or symbol itself, but from the belief invested in it by the practitioner. This is not to say that the external world is irrelevant, but rather that the magician's subjective experience, shaped by belief, is the primary arena in which magic operates. When you perform a ritual with genuine belief, you engage your subconscious mind, bypassing the filters of skepticism and self-doubt. The subconscious in turn responds by reorganizing your perceptions, attitudes, and behaviors in alignment with your magical intent. In some cases, the changes are internal, shifts in mood, confidence, or clarity. In others, they seem to ripple outward, producing synchronicities and shifts in the external world that defy conventional explanation. This is the paradox at the heart of Chaos Magick. Belief is both the cause and the effect of magical practice. You believe in order to achieve results, and the results reinforce your belief. The magician learns to ride this feedback loop, amplifying both belief and outcome through iterative practice. Belief as a lens. Belief is not merely a switch to be flicked on or off. It is a lens that colors every aspect of perception. The same event can be interpreted as a sign, a coincidence, or a meaningless occurrence, depending on the beliefs held by the observer. For the Chaos Magician, this plasticity is a source of power. By consciously altering your beliefs, you can shift the way you interpret reality, opening yourself to possibilities that would otherwise remain invisible. Consider the phenomenon of synchronicity, meaningful coincidences that seem to defy probability. To the skeptic, these are random events, the inevitable byproducts of a chaotic universe. To the believer, they are signs, messages from the universe, or evidence of magical influence. The events themselves are the same. It is the belief about them that transforms their meaning, and in turn, their impact on the magician's psyche and practice. This is not self-delusion, but a deliberate act of creative interpretation. The Chaos Magician does not seek to prove or disprove the objective reality of magical phenomena. Instead, the focus is on the subjective effect. Does adopting this belief empower you, inspire you, or facilitate the change you desire? If so, it is useful, at least for the time being. The suspension of disbelief. One of the core techniques in Chaos Magick is the suspension of disbelief. This is the ability to temporarily set aside skepticism and immerse oneself fully in a chosen belief system, no matter how outlandish or contradictory it may seem. The magician becomes an actor on the stage of reality, donning different masks and playing different roles as the situation demands. This approach draws inspiration from the world of theater and performance. An actor does not need to believe that the stage is a real castle, or that their fellow actors are truly kings and queens. Yet for the duration of the play, they inhabit these roles with conviction, allowing the audience to be swept up in the illusion. Similarly, the Chaos Magician adopts beliefs not out of blind faith, but as conscious experiments in perception and will. This willingness to play with belief is both liberating and challenging. It requires a certain flexibility of mind, a willingness to embrace paradox and uncertainty. It also demands self-awareness, lest the magician become lost in their own creations. The goal is not to become a true believer in any one system, but to become adept at moving between systems as tools for transformation. Belief as a magical technology. To understand belief as a technology is to recognize its programmable nature. Just as a computer can be loaded with different software to perform different tasks, so too can the mind be programmed with different beliefs to achieve different magical effects. This programming is not limited to conscious affirmations or declarations, but extends to the deep structures of the psyche, habits, assumptions, and emotional responses that shape behavior at a fundamental level. There are many techniques for installing and uninstalling beliefs. Some magicians use ritual and symbolism to embed new beliefs in the subconscious. Others employ meditation, visualization, or even hypnosis. The key is to engage the subconscious mind, bypassing the critical faculties of the conscious mind that often act as gatekeepers to change. One common method is the use of sigils, a core practice in Chaos Magick. The magician creates a symbol that encodes their desire, then charges it with emotional energy during a state of heightened focus. In this altered state, the sigil is impressed upon the subconscious, where it operates as a seed of belief that grows and manifests in the magician's life. Another technique is the deliberate adoption of belief systems, what Chaos magicians call paradigm shifting. For a period of time, the magician immerses themselves in a particular worldview, practicing its rituals, adopting its symbols, and internalizing its assumptions. This could be anything from traditional ceremonial magic to shamanic animism to modern scientific materialism. Each paradigm offers different tools, perspectives, and possibilities, and the act of moving between them expands the magician's repertoire. The dangers and pitfalls of belief manipulation. While the manipulation of belief is a powerful tool, it is not without its risks. The most obvious danger is the loss of critical perspective. In the process of suspending disbelief and adopting new paradigms, it is possible to become ensnared by one's own creations, mistaking the map for the territory and the symbol for the reality it represents. There is also the risk of psychological fragmentation. Constantly shifting between belief systems can create cognitive dissonance, leading to confusion, anxiety, or a sense of alienation. The Chaos Magician must cultivate a strong sense of self-awareness and grounding, lest they become unmoored from reality. To mitigate these risks, it is important to maintain a sense of playfulness and detachment. The magician is not a true believer, but a conscious experimenter. Beliefs are tools to be picked up and set down as needed, not identities to be clung to. This attitude of lightness allows for flexibility without losing one's center. Belief in the subconscious. Much of the power of belief lies in its ability to influence the subconscious mind. The subconscious is the seat of habits, emotions, and automatic behaviors, those aspects of ourselves that operate beneath the surface of conscious awareness. It is also the source of much of our creativity, intuition, and magical power. The subconscious is notoriously difficult to access directly. It speaks in the language of symbols, images, and emotions, rather than logic and reason. This is why ritual, symbolism, and altered states of consciousness are so central to magical practice. They provide a means of communicating with the subconscious, bypassing the critical filters of the conscious mind. When a belief is installed in the subconscious, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. The magician begins to act, think, and perceive in ways that align with the new belief, often without realizing it. Over time, these internal changes produce external results, reinforcing the belief and creating a positive feedback loop. The challenge is to ensure that the beliefs being installed are aligned with your true will and desires. It is all too easy to internalize limiting beliefs, stories about what is possible, what you deserve, or who you are, that sabotage your efforts from within. Chaos Magick offers the tools to identify, challenge, and replace these limiting beliefs with more empowering alternatives. Exercises for belief manipulation. To truly grasp the power of belief, it is necessary to move beyond theory and into practice. The following exercises are designed to help you become more conscious of your beliefs, experiment with new paradigms, and develop the flexibility needed for effective magical work. The belief inventory. Begin by making a list of your core beliefs. These might include beliefs about yourself, the world, magic, success, failure, love, or anything else that feels central to your identity. Be as honest as possible, and try to identify not only the beliefs you consciously endorse, but also those that operate beneath the surface. Once you have your list, examine each belief critically. Where did it come from? Is it serving you or holding you back? Is it based on evidence or inherited from others? Which beliefs would you like to keep, and which would you like to change? The act of belief. Choose a belief that you do not currently hold, but that you are willing to experiment with. For a set period of time, a day, a week, or longer, act as if this belief were true. Observe how this changes your thoughts, feelings, and behaviors. Notice any resistance or discomfort that arises, and use it as a source of insight. At the end of the experiment, reflect on what you have learned. Did adopting the new belief produce any noticeable changes in your experience? Was it empowering, unsettling, or both? Would you consider incorporating aspects of this belief into your regular practice? Paradigm shifting. Select a magical or philosophical paradigm that is unfamiliar to you. This could be a religion, a system of magic, or a worldview such as atheism, animism, or existentialism. Immerse yourself in this paradigm for a set period of time. Read its texts, perform its rituals, and adopt its symbols. Try to experience the world through its lens, suspending your usual beliefs as much as possible. As you move through this experiment, pay attention to how your perceptions shift. What new possibilities or limitations emerge? How does this paradigm shape your sense of self, your relationship to the world, and your magical practice? At the conclusion of the experiment, return to your baseline beliefs and reflect on the experience. What did you gain from the immersion? What aspects, if any, would you like to integrate into your ongoing practice? Sigilization and subconscious programming. Create a statement of intent, a desire you wish to manifest. Reduce this statement to a sigil by removing repeated letters and arranging the remainder into a unique symbol. Enter a state of focused attention through meditation, breathwork, or sexual energy, and charge the sigil with your intent. In this heightened state, impress the belief that your desire is already fulfilled upon your subconscious. After charging the sigil, forget about it as much as possible. Let go of attachment to the outcome, trusting that the belief has been planted in the fertile soil of your subconscious. Observe any changes in your thoughts, behaviors, or external circumstances in the days and weeks that follow. The role of doubt. No discussion of belief would be complete without addressing the role of doubt. In many spiritual traditions, doubt is seen as an enemy, a force to be overcome or banished. Chaos Magick, by contrast, treats doubt as a valuable ally. Doubt keeps the magician grounded, preventing the descent into fanaticism or self-delusion. It is the counterweight to belief, ensuring that the mind remains flexible and open to new possibilities. You have been listening to an extended preview of Chaos Magician's Workbook. To continue reading, visit the LLH Media Store or the book's Amazon listing.